We turn now to the tributes pouring in for Grammy-winning R&B singer D'Angelo, dying at just 51 years old after a battle with pancreatic cancer.
The world of R&B has lost one of its most influential voices. D'Angelo, the artist who helped shape the sound of neo-soul and redefined modern rhythm and blues, has passed away, leaving behind a heartbroken circle of family, friends, and fans. With pain in his heart, one close friend has stepped forward to make a shocking revelation, a message of deep regret and a wish for a do-over. What did Questlove reveal after D'Angelo's death? What regret still haunts him? Join us as we uncover the truth behind Questlove's powerful tribute that stunned the world. A shadowed season. The D'Angelo family has faced a storm of heartbreak this year. It began with the heartbreaking death of Angie Stone, the mother of D'Angelo's first son, whose life was tragically cut short in a car accident. Just months later, another devastating loss followed. The world now mourns D'Angelo himself, the soulful architect of modern R&B, whose voice once stirred millions. His passing, caused by severe complications from a long illness, has left fans in disbelief. Yet, behind the sorrow of his death lies something even more haunting: silent struggles no one would have ever imagined. Few voices in modern R&B carried the intoxicating power that D'Angelo's did. Behind the soft haze of stage lights and the glow of Grammy Gold, however, was a man who had long struggled with the image fame had built around him. His passing on October 14th, following a private fight with pancreatic cancer, marked the end of a remarkable yet deeply conflicted journey. Now, the struggles he fought to keep away from the public eye have been revealed. D'Angelo was a man who preferred solitude to the spotlight. He became reclusive after stepping away from public life in the early 2000s, retreating into a quieter world that suited his complex nature. While his voice remained unforgettable, his relationship with fame had grown uneasy. He was eccentric and reluctant to engage with the industry that once celebrated him.
On stage, on his music, in front of us, for all of us to see, for everyone to see.
Even with management around him, he reportedly struggled to re-enter the rhythm of music life, often choosing seclusion instead. Weight and self-image were burdens he carried for years. The sculpted figure that became iconic after the release of the untitled How Does It Feel was, according to those who knew him, far from his natural build. Beneath the image of confidence and allure that fans adored was someone who never fully felt at ease being a sex symbol. He reportedly disliked attention drawn to his changing appearance, leading to a lasting tension between the image the world expected and the man he truly was. Despite his complex nature, he had people who genuinely loved him and understood his nature. Even in his final months, D'Angelo was surrounded by family. He spent his last days under hospice care after an extended stay in the hospital. His son, Michael Archer Jr., was by his side throughout. Despite showing his emotional strength and staying by his father's side through the painful period, loved ones close to the family still expressed concern for him, describing the emotional weight of losing both parents in such a short span. In an emotional statement, the family described D'Angelo as the shining star of our family, acknowledging his long and courageous fight with cancer. Their message carried both grief and gratitude. Sorrow for his absence, but deep appreciation for the musical legacy he left behind. They invited the public to mourn his passing while celebrating the timeless songs that defined his career. His story continued to echo through Questlove's 2025 documentary, Sly Lives, which reflected on artists who bore the weight of genius and isolation. Questlove once described D'Angelo as someone chosen for a spotlight he never sought, a gifted soul caught between creativity and the pressure it brought. Questlove's revelation wasn't just a tribute, it was an emotional confession that left fans speechless. His words showed deep respect for D'Angelo, but they also sparked emotions no one saw coming. What was it about Questlove's shocking confession that hit so deep and left everyone talking? A relationship beyond titles. Questlove's reflections after D'Angelo's death carried a tone of remorse. What lingered most for him wasn't shock or disbelief at losing a friend, but guilt of apologies left unsaid. He He admitted feeling responsible for constantly insisting that D'Angelo finish his long-delayed fourth album, a project that had hung like an unfinished promise over the artist's final years, despite the emotional turmoil he was going through. The two had spoken not long after the 2025 Bonnaroo Festival, where Questlove once again urged him to release the music he had spent years perfecting. His final words to his friend were both playful and pleading.
That's just me kind of trying to emulate Premier and Marley Marl, you know, my favorite hip-hop producers.
Turn in your damn record. Just finish. Let your children go already. The grief was layered with a deep sense of what might have been. Questlove's bond with D'Angelo had been more than musical. It was a creative partnership built on trust and shared devotion to soul music. Yet their journey together almost never happened. During a recent appearance on Rick Rubin and Malcolm Gladwell's Broken Record podcast, Questlove revealed that he had initially rejected the chance to collaborate with D'Angelo on his 1995 debut album, Brown Sugar. At the time, he admitted he had grown weary of what he saw as uninspired 1990s soul. Nothing about soul singing had moved me, not the way Otis Redding, Stevie Wonder, or Lou Rawls once did. That dismissal did not last long. When he finally heard Brown Sugar, his attitude shifted instantly. D'Angelo's perfect combination of old-school warmth and raw modern groove reignited Questlove's faith in the genre. It wasn't long before the two artists began shaping the distinctive sound that defined D'Angelo's 2000 masterpiece, Voodoo, an album Rick Rubin himself has described as absolutely perfect. Their partnership, though, was never straightforward. There was mutual respect mixed with a friendly tension that kept their creativity sharp. Questlove described a moment in 1996 that marked the start of their real connection. Hoping to rebuild a relationship he had initially turned down, he approached D'Angelo during a show in Los Angeles. At the time, he was part of a lineup that included the Fugees, whose growing fame created an unspoken rivalry. Yet, that night, Questlove decided to take a different approach. Instead of performing as planned, he shifted the energy toward D'Angelo, calling an audible mid-show. In a subtle but powerful gesture, he played a rare drum roll from an old Prince record, a rhythmic code only a true music lover would recognize. D'Angelo caught it instantly. That silent exchange became their first real conversation. It was a meeting of minds that was expressed through rhythm rather than words. From that moment, the two developed the kind of musical chemistry that defined an era of neo-soul. Over time, Questlove became not just D'Angelo's collaborator, but also one of his fiercest believers. When others doubted whether D'Angelo would ever return to music after his long hiatus, Questlove never stopped encouraging him. His persistence came from admiration but also from understanding, the kind that exists between two perfectionists who see art as both a gift and a burden. The tragedy of D'Angelo's was tragic. For Questlove, the loss wasn't only about losing a friend, it was about unfinished art, unresolved conversations, and the haunting idea that he might have pushed too hard or not enough. His guilt was the kind that follows when creative passion collides with human fragility. Listening to Questlove recount these stories, it's very hard and almost impossible to hear the reverence and regret. He continues to speak of D'Angelo as an artist who carried the soul tradition forward, one who understood that greatness often demands isolation. Yet beneath the admiration lies the ache of someone who watched brilliance dim too soon. His final words to D'Angelo, "Just finish. Let your children go," was meant to free the music. In a sense, they did. The records left behind now speak for the artist who could never stop chasing perfection, and for the friend who still wishes he had said one more thing. This brilliant legacy makes people wonder, how did D'Angelo become a force to be reckoned with? Becoming a trailblazer. Born Michael Eugene Archer in South Richmond, Virginia, D'Angelo's path to music began almost as soon as he could reach the piano keys. By age 3, he was already playing in church alongside his father, a Pentecostal minister whose services were filled with rhythm and spirit. That early exposure nurtured his musical instincts and gave him the foundation for a style that later combined the sacred with the sensual. Through his teenage years, he performed in several local groups: Three of a Kind, Michael Archer and Precise, and Intelligent, Deadly but Unique. Each performance sharpened his sound and stage presence. By 1993, his talent caught the attention of EMI Records, leading to a recording deal that launched his professional career. His first major success came with You Will Know, written for the collective Black Men United.
Soundtrack about young brothers coming of age.
You Will Know is a positive anthem that illustrates the power of unity.
An anthem of unity and pride within the R&B community. But his true breakthrough arrived in 1995 with the release of his debut album, Brown Sugar. The record lingered on the Billboard 200 chart for more than a year, producing hits like Lady, Cruisin', and its silky title track. More than commercial success, Brown Sugar marked a cultural moment. It ushered in the neo-soul movement of the mid-1990s. D'Angelo's sound, smooth yet earthy, modern yet nostalgic, helped define a generation. His music bridged eras, weaving the richness of 60s and 70s R&B with the edge of hip-hop and the intimacy of gospel. Artists such as Maxwell and Erykah Badu soon followed with albums that carried a similar soul revival spirit, inspired in part by the path D'Angelo carved. During this period, he collaborated with some of the most influential artists of his time. His work on Lauryn Hill's groundbreaking 1998 album, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, flaunted his versatility and sensitivity as both a singer and a musician. On Nothing Even Matters, his gentle harmonies and electric piano blended seamlessly with Hill's voice, creating one of the album's most emotional moments. He also lent his touch to Method Man and GZA's tracks, proving his ability to move fluidly across genres. In the same era, D'Angelo released Live at the Jazz Cafe, a raw and soulful performance recorded in 1995. The album featured his renditions of classics like Smokey Robinson's Cruisin', Earth, Wind and Fire's Can't Hide Love, and the Ohio Players' Heaven Must Be Like This. His companion and backing vocalist at the time, Angie Stone, joined him on stage, and their chemistry added warmth to the intimate set. But perhaps the most defining partnership of his career began when he met Amir Questlove Thompson, the drummer and driving force behind The Roots. The two shared a deep admiration for classic soul and an obsession with musical perfection. Their friendship evolved into a creative alliance that would shape D'Angelo's next chapter. Together, they became the heartbeat of the Soulquarians, a collective of forward-thinking musicians determined to push the boundaries of R&B. For several years, they worked tirelessly on what would become D'Angelo's second studio album, Voodoo, released in January 2000. The sessions took place primarily at New York's legendary Electric Lady Studios, where late-night jams often blurred the line between rehearsal and revelation. The lineup was remarkable: Questlove on drums, Roy Hargrove on horns, James Poyser on keys, Pino Palladino on bass, and Jay Dilla shaping the beats behind the scenes. This circle of talent created a sound that was raw, experimental, and deeply human. The creative process behind Voodoo was almost ritualistic. According to those who were there, the musicians warmed up by playing entire albums, like Sly and the Family Stone's There's a Riot Going On, or Prince's Parade, from start to finish, absorbing the spirit of their heroes before creating something entirely their own. Those influences seeped into every groove of Voodoo, an album that remains one of the cornerstones of modern R&B. Its impact has stretched far beyond its release, shaping artists and producers across decades. Through it all, D'Angelo remained a symbol of authenticity. He was an artist who followed his instincts over trends and his emotions over expectations, but his fame was never a matter of luck. However, a personal decision almost destroyed everything he had worked for. What was this decision? The rebellion of Rise. The release of Voodoo brought D'Angelo to the height of fame, but it also marked the beginning of D'Angelo's retreat from the spotlight. Its lead single, How Does It Feel?, a slow-burning, soulful ballad, became one of the most talked-about songs of the era, though not only for its sound. The accompanying video, which showed a shirtless and sculpted D'Angelo singing directly to the camera, turned him into an overnight sex symbol. For many, it was mesmerizing. For D'Angelo, it was uncomfortable. He had poured his heart into creating deeply personal music, yet found himself defined by an image he never intended to project. The attention, though flattering to some, became a burden that overshadowed his artistry. Despite his growing unease, the Voodoo tour that followed was a triumph. Joined by most of the Soulquarians, D'Angelo delivered powerful performances that confirmed his place among the most talented musicians of his generation. But behind the success, the pressure was mounting. Fame had turned from a reward into a weight. Not long after the tour ended, he began to withdraw. Over the next decade, D'Angelo all but vanished from public life, parting with several managers and a record label. His absence became a mystery, and when news of his arrests for DUI and drug possession surfaced, fans and the media reacted with alarm. What the world saw as a downfall was, in part, an artist wrestling with his own perfectionism. D'Angelo had always been known for his obsessive approach to music, an artist unwilling to release a note that didn't feel right. Back in Virginia, he retreated into his home studio, quietly working on new material. Questlove occasionally offered glimpses of hope, teasing progress updates and sharing how close the long-awaited album seemed to completion. "It's 99% done," Questlove once said, yet another 2 years passed before fans would hear anything new. Even in his silence, D'Angelo's influence rippled through the music world. He made rare guest appearances, lending his touch to songs by J Dilla, Snoop Dogg, Common, and Q-Tip. Each appearance was like a spark from an artist not entirely gone, just quietly reassembling himself. His return to live performance began gradually in the early 2010s. D'Angelo toured parts of Europe, often accompanied by Questlove. The shows were loose and soulful, filled with extended jam sessions and covers of classic R&B songs. They felt more like intimate gatherings than concerts, moments in which D'Angelo rediscovered the joy of playing, free from the weight of expectation. Then, in 2013, came a performance that reignited the public's fascination. At Carnegie Hall's Music of Prince tribute, D'Angelo took the stage alongside Questlove, members of The Roots and Prince's Own Revolution band. What followed was electrifying, leading a fiery rendition of "It's Gonna Be a Beautiful Night" and 1999, he commanded the stage with a renewed energy that stunned the crowd. In those 10 minutes, he seemed transformed and alive with movement, confidence, and joy. He strutted across the stage, kicked over the piano stool, dropped the mic stand James Brown style, and led the audience in a call and response that filled the hall with energy. That night, it became clear that D'Angelo's connection to performance had never truly faded. Beneath the years of isolation, he still carried the same fire that once defined Brown Sugar and Voodoo. The difference was perspective. He was no longer chasing the spotlight. He was reclaiming it on his own terms. But how long did that last? A downward trail. By early 2014, anticipation for D'Angelo's return had reached a quiet but intense peak. His manager at the time, Kevin Liles, spoke openly about the long, slow process behind the comeback. D'Angelo, he explained, had not performed in a decade and had spent nearly 12 years refining what would become his next album. Music was more like a lifeblood than a career for him. The studio and the stage were his air. He described the album he was crafting as his baby, something he wanted to raise to its fullest potential before sharing it with the world. 15 years after Voodoo, Black Messiah finally arrived in late 2014. It felt both familiar and new, grounded in the earthy soul of his earlier work, but rhythmically bolder. Many songs carried grooves, inspired by J Dilla's unorthodox timing, where drums seemed to stretch and snap just outside the beat. This evolution had begun during Voodoo but was now fully realized, offering a sound that felt spontaneous yet deeply deliberate. To mark his long-awaited return, D'Angelo launched a world tour, beginning at a venue deeply connected to his past, the Apollo Theater in Harlem. It was there, as a 16-year-old in 1991, that he had first stunned the crowd during Amateur Night, a performance that foreshadowed his future greatness. Returning decades later, heavier in stature but unchanged in presence, he walked onto the dimly lit stage and opened with prayer. For the first two verses, he stood alone before his band joined in. What followed was a reminder of the magnetism that had once made him the soul world's brightest flame. Critics described the show as electric. Backed by The Vanguard, a 10-piece band featuring bassist Pino Palladino and former Time guitarist Jesse Johnson, D'Angelo led each song. The new tracks from Black Messiah sounded effortless, as if they had been road-tested for years. On stage, he behaved like a man rediscovering his rhythm, guiding the band with the same sharp instincts that once defined his heroes, Prince and James Brown. Songs stretched to 10-minute jams without ever losing focus. It was musical freedom at its finest. After the tour, however, D'Angelo once again withdrew from public life. When Prince passed away in 2016, D'Angelo paid tribute on The Tonight Show, performing "Sometimes It Snows in April" with Maya Rudolph and Gretchen Lieberman, a raw emotional performance that reminded fans of his rare vulnerability.
In the middle of the performance, D'Angelo broke down and Maya and Gretchen Lieberman carried on.
Yet just weeks later, he unexpectedly pulled out of a scheduled BET Awards tribute, vanishing again into silence. His few public appearances in the years that followed were brief but memorable. In 2019, he recorded "Unshaken" for the video game Red Dead Redemption 2, a haunting song that captured his signature blend of melancholy and strength. Then, in February 2021, he reappeared on stage at the Apollo for a special Verzuz webcast. The performance, featuring Keon Harold, Method Man, Redman, and H.E.R., felt intimate and spontaneous, a reunion with his roots. That June, he performed "Unshaken" at the Tribeca Film Festival, an event that would quietly mark his final public performance. Even in his quietest years, D'Angelo remained connected to music. In 2024, he and Jay-Z appeared on James Samuel's 9-minute single, "I Want You Forever," part of the soundtrack for the Book of Clarence. He was also working on a new project with longtime collaborator Raphael Saadiq, the co-writer of How Does It Feel? It was to be his next chapter, a continuation of the sound he had spent decades shaping. Though he had stepped back from fame, D'Angelo's voice resonated in another medium, Questlove's documentary Sly Lives. The film explored the pressures faced by extraordinary black artists, a theme D'Angelo spoke about with honesty. He discussed what the documentary called "the burden of black genius" is, the idea that gifted black creatives often face an invisible demand to lead, inspire, and represent, even when they seek only to create. In the film, D'Angelo's words carried the weight of both pride and weariness. He said, "It doesn't matter whether you're doing music or sports. We as black folk always have to be 3, 4, or 5 steps ahead of everybody else just to break even. It's always been that way." When the interviewer asked, almost helplessly, "Why?" D'Angelo's reply was simple and resigned. Why ask why? It was a statement that captured the heart of his journey, an artist who gave everything to his craft, wrestled with the expectations it brought, and carried the quiet grace of someone who never stopped reaching for truth in every note. Unknown to many, the struggles D'Angelo encountered were not limited to his music alone. What was one experience that not only shocked everyone, but must have promoted D'Angelo's need to remain hidden from public scrutiny? Not without controversies. In early 2010, D'Angelo found himself at the center of a public scandal. He was arrested in New York after allegedly offering $40 to an undercover police officer posing as an adult worker. According to police reports, the incident occurred while D'Angelo was behind the wheel of his Range Rover. The arrest quickly drew attention, not only because of his fame, but also because it came after a long period of relative silence from the artist. Following the incident, D'Angelo released a statement asserting his innocence. He pleaded not guilty and expressed his determination to contest the charge. His message to the public was firm yet straightforward. He urged everyone to allow the American justice system to take its course before forming conclusions. A year later, the case came to a quiet close. D'Angelo entered a guilty plea to a lesser charge of disorderly conduct. Under United States law, the offense is considered a violation rather than a criminal act. Prosecutors confirmed that the singer had met certain conditions for the plea. though they declined to reveal what those conditions were. Neither D'Angelo nor his lawyer offered public comments following the outcome. The 2010 case was far from D'Angelo's first encounter with the law. In 2005, he received a 3-year suspended sentence for cocaine possession. Later that same year, he faced further legal challenges, being found guilty of marijuana possession and driving under the influence of alcohol. These charges resulted in his driver's license being suspended for 18 months. For fans, each of these incidents was an unbelievable contrast to the man they had once seen as a symbol of musical purity and spiritual depth. His withdrawal from the public eye became as legendary as his music itself. For nearly a decade, D'Angelo retreated from the spotlight, grappling with the demands of celebrity, creative perfectionism, and personal struggles. Yet, his absence only deepened the mystique surrounding him. By the time D'Angelo's legal battles returned to the spotlight, the world saw an artist whose extraordinary gift often clashed with the turmoil of his private life. Yet, even through controversy, his creative light never dimmed. His soulful, earthy, and spiritual sound continued to inspire a new wave of artists who regarded him as the true essence of musical authenticity. Following his death, tributes poured in from across the entertainment world. Lauryn Hill, his collaborator on the timeless duet Nothing Even Matters, shared, "I regret not having more time with you." The song, which once appeared on President Barack Obama's 2015 summer playlist, became a reminder of D'Angelo's lasting influence. Obama himself expressed sorrow, saying, "Michelle and I are thinking of his family and all those who loved and admired him." Actor Jamie Foxx wrote, "Your music and your impression will be felt for generations to come." Musical icons, including Beyoncé, Tyler, The Creator, Nile Rodgers, Missy Elliott, George Clinton, and Doja Cat, also paid heartfelt tribute to the legend whose artistry reshaped R&B forever. Was D'Angelo's most incredible legacy his music, or the timeless spirit of authenticity he brought to it? And as new artists rise, will anyone ever capture the same raw soul that defined his sound? Share your thoughts with us in the comment section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.